So I was planning on making this video around the first few threats of the TikTok ban a while ago, but I would have focused more on the aspect that the ban basically would have done nothing because people would have just flocked to another platform. And naturally, this is what happened anyway, but not in the way that I was expecting. By now, most of you have probably heard of the banning and unbanning of TikTok, as well as everyone running to Little Red Book. Within 1 week, everything went back to normal like nothing happened. And so many things have happened within only a couple of weeks from the very beginning of this year to now when discussing this TikTok ban. Hence the reason why I haven't said anything about it until now. I already knew this was going to be a whole thing, and I wasn't trying to have to make a video, then make a follow-up video. The TikTok situation is crazy. The TikTok situation gets worse. I'm not trying to make this whole series, all right? I'm trying to talk about it once and get over it. But from a sociological perspective, I think this entire situation showcases just one of the many interesting things about humanity, the way that we act when we have things taken away from us, and everything that followed it. So today I'm going to be giving you all a comprehensive analytical review of the TikTok ban, everything that came after it, and how humanity has a tendency of going around in circles. Just a quick disclaimer, to talk about this, I did have to do a little bit of research on China and the way that they operate, because their culture versus our culture is going to be a big part of this conversation. But this is not a video of me shunning China or praising China either. American media, just like all media in all countries, has their type of propaganda. But if you think you're coming here for me to validate your feelings on whether or not you should hate or love China, not the place for you. I'm not going to discriminate the country, but I'm also not going to be singing its praises and sugarcoating some of its practices either. It's mainly going to be me acknowledging the vast differences in culture and how that relates to the reaction and the treatment of the American people and the Chinese people. So without further ado, let's start with phase one. Spite.
Tally. I'm already learning over there. I don't feel no type of way about the TikTok ban. I'm already a Chinese citizen. I'm trying to get up in there. They already done lied and tricked us, telling us China did this, China did that. We walked over there, China said, hey, y'all. So I'm gonna be having fun over there. They just mad because we learning so much. They thought they was gonna take away an app that's owned by a man that's in China, and we was just gonna accept that. Nah, we done packed up our bags and we done moved over there to a real Chinese app, and then now they finna take all our data.
Day 4 of living among the trees. I've defected from the US because of the TikTok ban, and I've been spending all of my time on an even more Chinese app, RedNote. I've learned so much about how great China is. My wife and kids are still American citizens living just below me. It's been tough on our family dynamic, but our love is strong, much like the CCP.
And to the US government, I'm never forgiving you for this. And I'm never gonna trust you ever again because you just, like that, took away millions of people's income and livelihood. And who does that? So I'm never trusting you ever again with anything.
Don't you think that by taking away the, and I quote, key communications channel of Americans, it's gonna make those 170 million Americans a little more anti-American? Maybe Congress knows and understands that. Maybe the government knows that the backlash it will receive from banning TikTok does not outweigh the threats that come with its existence. Not in a matter of national security, but in a matter of being the most popular news and media outlet that the government cannot control.
So the government has been dangling the TikTok ban over our heads since, 2020? And everyone just kind of turned a blind eye to it because it kept being like the boy who cried wolf, like, we're going to ban TikTok, oh no. Oh, actually, never mind, we changed our mind. Until it actually became serious this year. So according to the government, the main reason for this ban was supposedly security reasons. There was concerns about the Chinese government collecting and storing American users' data. So right before he left office, Biden gave China a certain period of time in order to either sell the company to America or they would ban it in America, which I kind of think truly gives what the biggest motive for this entire thing was. Money, obviously. China was making bank off the US and the US didn't like that. Simple as that. I mean, the American government is already stealing our data and invading our privacy. Not that it's okay, by the way. This should not be normalized, and I'll talk about that later in the video. But to me, it feels like it was pretty clear that their mindset was, if I can't have the money, no one can. It was just a pretty spiteful move to be sure that the Chinese couldn't profit off of Americans' data or their money when they wanted to be the ones gaining all that profit. But in an unexpected turn of events, the American people decided to do the same exact thing, be spiteful. So the Americans, like a bunch of heroin addicts, are desperately looking for an alternative to their favorite addiction and finds an app called Little Red Book or Zhang Hongshu. So the app is called Little Red Book in English, which is a book of quotations by Mao Zedong. I'm hoping that I pronounced his name correctly, but he was the founding father of communist China. So many people ended up flocking over there, not only to relieve their crippling addiction to TikTok, but it was really just supposed to be the biggest middle finger to the government, in which, yeah, they have every right to be upset. I mean, banning an app which allows people to express themselves when you've built your country on the value of free speech seems very hypocritical, especially when there are more pressing matters to speak of when it comes to, oh, I don't know, the economic and political state of the world right now. So a lot of people were leaving and running to Little Red Book mainly to spite the government because they were upset. It's that very kind of childish mindset, much like a teenager, where you tell them not to do something or not to hang out with a certain crowd or something like that. And it's like, oh, you can't tell me what to do. I know what's best for myself. And then they go running off and having their dramatic coming of age story or whatever. That's basically what happened here. This entire thing was just a huge cheesy coming of age story sort of mindset where it's like, oh, well, you demonize these people. You told me not to work with these people. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to go over there and willingly give them my information now. You can't tell me what to do. So this entire thing was basically built off of spite, which shows you how strong of an emotion it is. An intense spite for the American government ended up becoming intense love for the Chinese people and government.
I am a TikTok refugee. I apologize I don't know your language yet, but I will work on practicing it.
你好，小红书，我的名字是艾莉，和我是美国人 TikTok refugee。
Hello, Red Note! Oh my gosh, TikTok refugee here. Wow. 你好.
To all the Chinese people on Xiaohongshu, I'll cut you a deal. If you teach us all Mandarin, I'll do your English homework. I swear to God.
TikTok refugees, we found each other. We're here.
So, are we all getting Chinese boyfriends now?
今年真的非常流行毛领夹克，准备了3套毛领夹克传单，看一下有没有你喜欢的。
It's crazy how welcoming and friendly you guys are. Like every single video that I've seen, every single comment that I've seen, like they're all like, welcome, stay here.
Welcome to 小红书。我勒个豆 you guys are crazy.
Hello, TikTok refugees.
Hi, my refugee friends.
Hello, TikTok refugees.
Welcome all TikTok refugees.
Hello, welcome to China.
So after flooding into Little Red Book, the American people were having issues navigating the app because it was completely in Chinese. Then came many of the Chinese citizens who were very surprised and perplexed at the influx of a bunch of Americans swarming into their app. And many of the Chinese citizens were very welcoming and very kind, helping out all of the TikTok refugees. I'm sorry, it's just with other stuff happening in the world right now and like actual refugees existing, I don't know, man. Just something doesn't seem right with calling yourself a refugee because your app got banned. I don't know. I think first world problems. But anyways, many of the people began to learn Chinese and communicate with the other people on the app, and users began sharing what their lives was like in China versus America. Now again, whether or not these things are completely true for the entirety of China, I don't know. I can't say. I've never been there. And China is huge. Do you guys realize how big China is? And you kind of get info from both sides, it seems. A lot of Americans were stating how much cheaper it is to live in China. And a lot of other people say that everything is adjusted based on how much money they make per hour. The Chinese get paid much lower than our American counterparts. So therefore, things are cheaper over there. Some people talked about living in China and just living under an authoritarian rule, and that it was not very pleasant for them. For some, it was a nightmare. Others who lived in China and other places of similar nature, they sing the praises of cheaper healthcare and better transportation. Some people say that China has a brutal history and their regime tends to be a little bit restrictive. And some people say that the people who are saying these things are just part of the American government trying to do damage control. So what do I say? Just do your own dang research at this point. It's very easy to get caught up in propaganda and misinformation, whether it be deliberate or an accident. And it's very easy to get swept up in a social media app that, just like every other social media app, only shows a percentage, a small portion of the true life that is being lived. So sure, it may not give the full picture of the entire country. Again, China is huge. And obviously there's going to be some economic and cultural differences between the US and China. And it really just depends on wherever your values are that some of them may appeal to you and some of those policies may not. So I really just recommend you just do your own research, get the info on your own, because I don't think running to a country when you've only seen it on, social media platforms is a very good idea. That's like Chinese citizens running to America because they were on Instagram and saw everybody with their cool cars and handbags. Probably not a good idea. But the point is, the cultural exchange for Americans and for the Chinese people was really big. People were able to see into the lives of each other from all the way across the world. Their humor, teaching each other's languages, helping each other cheat on homework. It showed a very lovely point of human connection that was an after effect of flooding the app, which is a turnout that not a lot of people expected. Because I imagine, just like every other country, China has its ups and downs, but it's a very beautiful country. And a lot of Chinese citizens are just really happy that Americans are seeing them as the regular people that they are, with just different cultural norms. So of course, they may not be talking about the downsides or the negative, and they may want to brag about all of the good things about their country. Because I mean, they've been getting some bad rep for a while now. And the honeymoon stage for several people would come to an end.
There's only two gender out here, male and female. If you are gay, just be gay. Don't talk about you're gay. We all know you're gay. Just don't talk about it. If you're a lesbian, you cool. There's no gay marriage out here. That's against the law. So keep it to yourself. Don't swing that to someone else's daughter or something.
On how you can get banned on Red Note. The top one is you cannot be talking about politics or the Chinese government. Number 2 is you can't talk about the LGBTQ community or even your opinions on it. There can be no sexual content. You can't even look too sexy or too revealing. Ooh, the next one is foul language is not allowed. And I know we get carried away on TikTok with that. Keep in mind that Red Note is a Chinese owned app, so they do not have access to freedom of speech the way we do here in America. Their online behavior is monitored very, very closely.
So here are a few tips to make your time on Red Note better. The first thing, no politics. We don't discuss politics here, especially not Chinese politics. Also, topics like gambling, drugs, violence, or religions, yeah, we steer clear of those two. Number 2, original content only. We take originality very seriously. Don't copy or repost someone else's work. We won't respect you for it. Of course, if you get the original creator's permission, collaborations are totally welcome. Number 3, quality matters. I know right now, because of the novelty factor, even a simple selfie video can blow up. But don't forget that this platform is built on high quality content. Let's keep that standard, okay?
Something that has come up as a surprise to many Americans, in which a lot of them, of course, had no previous knowledge or understanding of Chinese culture, was the difference in cultural norms and censorship on Little Red Book. And I know what some of you are going to say. Well, American apps also have censorship, so it's really not that different. Yeah, you're right. There are many topics that might get flagged on Insta or TikTok. I mean, heck, YouTube censors all the time. It's the whole reason we have to be careful with our speech and walk on eggshells, otherwise we'll get demonetized. So it's not the fact that censorship doesn't exist in America. Probably not on the same level, but it still exists. It's what exactly gets censored that's the difference. Politics, for one, is a huge no. Like in the clips I showed you, you can't talk about LGBTQ issues, you can't criticize the government, especially the Chinese government, social justice issues and stuff like that. All these things are not allowed. And when you think about all the people on TikTok who made their entire channel surrounded around those topics, being able to say that Trump is stupid or Biden is stupid or talking about certain human rights, finding out all these things are not allowed, it can become problematic for people who made the channel about those things and can not only get flagged by the system, but also the reactions of the other Chinese citizens on there as well. Or how about clothing and fashion videos? Having somewhat revealing clothing or having anything that seems too sexual is not allowed on the app and may have your account flagged and even be banned. But like, have you seen Western women? Of course, I'm just generalizing here, but a lot of Western women like to dress in more revealing clothing and they like to express themselves in various different ways, like off the shoulder tops, low cut tops. And again, all the fashion TikTokers, the women who, would show their outfits, get ready with me to go out like for a night out with the girls or something like that. So many videos of them showing off their outfits, which to China standards are a little bit too revealing, or some of them being like half naked and then getting dressed on camera. That always had me raise my brow a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I think you guys are a little bit too comfortable on the app, but anyways, I digress. A lot of the creators who made content like that would not be able to do it anymore because it may get flagged. So you would just have to be very careful about the way that you dress. But again, there are a lot of women who want to express themselves differently. And men too. There are plenty of men who do those types of fashion videos, but their sense of fashion tends to be very different. So just a couple examples of the different types of censorship and the way that that could affect Americans who weren't used to those specific types of censorships. And some people actually prefer it this way. They say it keeps the wholesome environment that's on the app, which I could understand because with how annoyingly political and hypersexual things tend to be on the internet nowadays, it's nice to keep a more positive environment and keep a break from all those things. But this has become something to take into consideration for American users going onto Little Red Book and hoping to be a content creator there, and that they will clearly need to adjust to the norms in order to make it work. And this was before TikTok was unbanned, of course. So that was a bit of a rude awakening for a lot of American users who went there acting as if they were on an American app, seeing the difference in the operation of a Chinese ran app. But also, this migration and adaptation in itself was bothering a lot of Chinese users who have been using Little Red Book for the longest time. And the fact that these Americans were trying to come to the app in the first place and colonize it, if you will.
If you're on Xiaohongshu, you might saw some posts saying that Americans are not welcome here and that they should go back. These opinions are actually not coming from Chinese nationalists or any Chinese people being xenophobic. People who are from China have never been abroad, usually welcome Americans. But someone who studied abroad, like me, are telling Americans to go back. I'll explain why. When you see Americans flooding into Xiaohongshu, they find out that Chinese people are so welcoming and it was flowers and hugs and cheers, even if they don't speak Chinese at all. But what Chinese international student experienced abroad was the complete opposite. When we just got here in North America, when we still cannot speak English at all, people treat us with absolutely no respect. When you don't speak the language, Americans just treat us in whatever way they want because we cannot fight back and they bully us.
Rednote or Xiaohongshu just released an update in the Greater China region with a function to separate out foreign IPs, and there are now talks of moving all foreign IPs to a separate server and having a different IP for those who are in the Greater China area. I know through VPNs and other ways people are still able to access the app, but essentially this is going to kill the app for Chinese Americans who actually uses the app to connect with the Chinese content, Chinese language, Chinese culture. It's a way for me to feel, I don't know, all of this just because we wanted to say you to the US government.
I think it just weirds me out because if it wasn't for the potential TikTok ban, so many of these people would not discover that China is just a normal country. I don't know why it's taken so long for people to realize that China is like every other country out there. Like, do you think we're swinging from trees? It took something being taken away from you to educate yourself on that. Like, that rubs me the wrong way. If TikTok wasn't going to be possibly banned, so many of these people wouldn't figure that out. Wow, Chinese people are actually nice. Wow, they're actually so sweet on this app. Because we have manners, unlike so many Americans. And now I'm seeing posts that are like skibbity or like really stupid memes. I don't even want to talk about the comments I've seen on Chinese men's posts. Yeah, can we not comment "rail me daddy," please? And the sad part is they don't know what that means. So it just feels like another way people are taking advantage of them. Stop infantilizing us too. Oh my god, your English is so cute. Oh my god, they're so cute on that app. What is with people loving to infantilize Asian people? I don't get it.
Newest from Xiaohongshu, they're already starting to distinguish content being pushed based on IPs. So they're only pushing overseas IPs content to overseas users. It hasn't rolled out to every single overseas user, but that's the trend. That's where it's going because the TikTok people that are flocking to Xiaohongshu are posting content that the Chinese government does not want the users to access. So thank you very much. That was one of the only routes of accessing content from China for diasporic Chinese people and visa students and immigrants.
Having a common enemy has always been a very effective strategy when trying to deal with a problem. It creates a sense of unity because you both have a common interest. That common interest being the common enemy, of course. More specifically, a common interest of hatred. The saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my ally, or something along those lines. So it makes for a very simple cooperation in the very beginning. The Chinese was against the American government because they were taking a large source of income and data from them, and the American citizens were against the American government because they were also taking a huge source of income, vocal freedom and expression, and a recreational pastime. So boom, there you go. They made an alliance about getting upset over the things that the American government was doing. But sometimes the issue with having a common enemy is that your only common interest is the enemy, meaning that that's essentially the only bond that you have, and are just kind of pushing aside and ignoring all of the differences that you may have. But after a while, once you've gotten close to defeating your common enemy or have defeated them, who do you start to fight against? Each other. I think it's fair to say that the sudden migration of all these Americans to this traditionally Chinese app has a lot of Chinese citizens just uncomfortable and perturbed, and frankly, rightfully so. I actually agree with a lot of the things that some of them were saying in these clips. The only reason why the Americans were so eager to run to another app, a Chinese app, is because they wanted to spite the government, which means it was never really an original thought to learn or care about Chinese culture. That was just an afterthought, a bonus, if you will. This entire movement essentially was a movement of hatred, meaning the people couldn't care less what the outcome of flooding to another app was going to be. All they wanted to do was piss off the American government, using the Chinese citizens' fun hobby and pastime as a way to get revenge. Now, I'm not saying all the Americans who went over there didn't or don't care about Chinese culture. And again, there are plenty of positive interactions that happen when they first flooded over there. But again, the majority of these people would probably not have looked into Chinese culture, the Chinese government, and everything like that unless the ban had happened. Not saying anyone technically had to look into their culture, because they didn't, but it's just having a sudden interest simply because you were inconvenienced. It's still something that rubbed a lot of Chinese citizens the wrong way. I mean, they've been using this app for years, and having so many people come in and disrupts their normal way of life is bound to get people upset. There's also the fact of infantilization and sudden romanticism of China because of this, which I think is another really good point. That's just an issue America has in general when it comes to Asia. Southeast Asia, because that's like the only part they ever talk about. Everywhere else in Asia they don't care about because it's not as aesthetic. They obsess over Japan because of anime, they obsess over Korea because of K-pop. Now China finally has its turn of being unhealthily obsessed over. It's only a matter of time before you start seeing Chinese subliminals. Anyways, once the honeymoon stage was over, in that initial rage to the American government and the bliss of learning Chinese culture, which was blinding people from certain cultural differences, that alliance began to break a little bit, with the Chinese feeling like their space is being invaded and the Americans not so happy having to conform to different norms. And allegedly, the Chinese government isn't too ecstatic about this cultural crossover either, at least according to some Chinese Little Red Book users as seen in the clips that I showed you. They say that the government has been working on creating separate servers to separate the Chinese people and the American people, and they'll use your IP address to determine, which one you'll go to. Now, I myself have not seen any news about this. I tried searching it up, researching it, and I haven't seen any concrete evidence that they will be doing this. So it could just be rumor, especially because they work so hard and so quickly to get the English translation function on their app. But I'm not saying that it's not true either, because again, the social media can show whatever it wants. So me researching it and not finding anything doesn't necessarily mean it's not true, especially if Chinese citizens are kind of seeing this happen in real time. I mean, China did ban a lot of American apps from China using their Great Firewall, or blocked, not banned, they blocked it with the firewall. Of course, they have a very specific way they like to run things, specific information that they want to come to the Chinese public and other information that they'd rather not. That, and also the Chinese government doesn't want America stealing Chinese citizens' data either. So, touche. But again, even though there are quarrels, I think there was a lot of good that definitely came out of this. A huge cultural exchange, appreciation, and understanding of each other's cultures. And it brought a lot of people together, And I think that's definitely a huge win, especially in a time where right now the whole world seems to be divided. Now, I could sit here and talk about the massive meltdowns that happened over TikTok, the fact that this entire movement even started because an app was being banned. I could easily humiliate these people and make them feel stupid, but I'm not gonna do that. Being on YouTube has made me realize it is very easy to gain this superiority complex, especially because I don't use TikTok. I couldn't care less for TikTok, and I also had no urge to download Little Red Book, so obviously it's easier for me to look at this objectively. But to a certain degree, I can understand the massive frustration and hysteria that hit a lot of these people. I mean, again, it wasn't just an app to scroll and watch brain rot all day. This was a lot of people's job or side job. It brought them in a lot of money. It was a pathway for simple creative freedom. It was a vice for a lot of people. So there was a lot of things that came with it that is understandable why people were so upset about it. Does the reaction definitely hint at a little bit of an addiction? Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of these people are unhealthily addicted. But again, more of a reason why, I don't want to just start humiliating them and laughing at them when this is a genuine issue. Also, two more things that I do want to touch on. One, there was a lot of people who did make fun of a lot of these creators and telling them that this is why you need to get a real job. This is why, content creation, you influencers, you need to actually learn how to get a job, fix your resume and stuff like that. It's not like content creation is not a real job. All jobs do not have to be the conventional 9 to 5. There's nothing wrong with having a conventional 9 to 5, but there's no need to put other people down with how they make their income either. I mean, you can have your feelings about it, your objections about it, and why you wouldn't want to work that job. But trying to sit here and be like, oh, that's why you should have had a 9 to 5, just like a regular job. It's like content creation is not always as easy as everyone tries to make it seem, right? A lot of people try to water it down. This guy just sits in his bedroom and make gaming videos, or they just sit in front of a camera and talk. Yes, but similar to how there's lazy people in regular 9 to 5s. I mean, have you been to the Walmarts where these kids, they just sit on their phones all day, you ask them to go look for something in the back and they don't be doing nothing? I can't tell you the amount of times my sister has, she's worked, plenty of different types of jobs, and she's always got that one person who does absolutely nothing all day. They just sit there on their phones and get paid to do nothing. So yeah, there's laziness in regular corporate and 9 to 5 jobs as well. And yes, you have the people on TikTok who can do a little dance, and just because they're attractive, they blow up and make millions of dollars. So there are similar principles, but I don't think it's fair to water down creative processes as not real jobs just because it's not the conventional way. Anybody who makes content and genuinely puts time into it, right? I mean, people who do a lot of these skits, these very funny videos, or do video essays, takes a lot of time to do research. Anybody who does these things knows that it's not simple. It may be simpler relative to other jobs, but it's not easy. And I see videos of content creators belittling people with 9 to 5s. I mean, like, oh, I know I'm not the one who just listens to the man who clocks in and clocks out. It's not that easy. It's like working a 9 to 5 is also not that simple either. It can be very demanding, very tiring, and frankly, not even worth it sometimes. So again, just like everybody just chill, all right? Stop trying to put other people down just to fill whatever insecurities that you have. Chill out. Saying that TikTokers and influencers should get a 9 to 5 job, just get a regular job. Like, okay, well, around the pandemic, you all lost your jobs. So then what? Couldn't they say the same thing about you? That's why you don't need to be working a regular 9 to 5 job. That's why you need to, be your own boss and make your own content. They could have said the same thing. They probably did. Everybody has the different ways that they want to make money. That's fair to criticize it. You can, criticize whatever types of jobs that you want. It can be harmful sometimes. Sure, you can say whatever you want about them. But having a regular 9 to 5 is not the only way to do things. But with that being said, I definitely do think business-wise, it is never a bad idea to have another source of income, obviously, because all these influencers would have been out of the job. Rule number one of being your own boss and just having a business, you gotta have different businesses. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. So anyways, that's that. And then the second thing is about this whole thing happened because of the data, right? Stealing the data, and they didn't want the Chinese government to steal our data, whatever. And a lot of people were like, okay, whatever, I'm going to give them my data. I don't care because the American government steals my data too. We should not be normalizing this, okay? It's still not cool that anybody is stealing our data. I don't care if it's the American government, the Chinese government, I don't care who it is. I feel like this movement kind of had people be like, well, who cares they're stealing our data? I remember seeing this comment that said, it was like sarcastically being like, oh, the Chinese is going to take my data so they can advertise me different things on the internet. Big whoop. Yeah, big whoop. First of all, you act like we don't have an overconsumption problem going on right now. The millions of Americans who are constantly running to go buy stuff because they can't stop themselves from getting those dopamine hits. The people who go crying and whining that they can't pay their bills, they can't afford groceries, but they go running to Crumble's Cookies every week just to pay $100 on 6 cookies. Like, yeah, there are actual dangers to having your information be stolen. Again, regardless of who, I don't care who it is, but I feel like we shouldn't be so complacent and comfortable with it happening. Sure, you wanted to give an FU to the government, but it's like, either way, somebody's still taking your data. I don't know. I guess maybe people just get really comfortable with like having no privacy on the internet because they don't give any to themselves anyway. I mean, they be posting every single second of their lives. So maybe it's just something people don't really care about anymore. But I don't know. I think it's still important, like internet safety and just being able to protect your data and have some privacy. I think that's still important. I don't like the idea of being able to scroll on something and immediately be advertised a bunch of things so they can profit off of me. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But I still don't think we should be watering it down as if it's still not an issue that needs to be addressed. They only get away with it because we're so complacent with it happening. But anyways, all of that aside, for me, there are 3 really big takeaways from this entire endeavor. 1, spite is an incredibly powerful thing, and when used correctly, can yield very powerful results. 2, things are not always as they seem. The grass may be greener on the other side, Or sometimes you're getting misinformation. Sometimes it's all just propaganda to keep you from learning about the truths of other countries. It's never a bad idea to look into things yourself and try to make an informed decision. And 3, China really knows how to tap into the human psyche to get people addicted. I mean, again, this entire movement happened because an app was being taken away. We all know how addicting TikTok can be. The algorithm is insane and it gives the user exactly what it wants. And it wouldn't be the first time that China made a very addicting app either. Think Temu. That easily became the #1 app too when everyone started figuring out about it. I have my own personal quarrels with the app for that very reason, because I seen it like in real time changing my shopping behaviors, and I did not like it and I got rid of it and never used it again. I would love to talk about my experience with Temu and psychologically their marketing skills and how they basically took the App Store and just America again by storm and have people addicted and still have people addicted. I know people don't talk about it as much, but I'm sure a lot of people still use it. I just would love to go to China and see like what their marketing team does and what that looks like. Like, what do the marketing analysts do to create such addicting platforms? I feel like you have to have such a concrete understanding of psychology to be able to do what they do and get consistent results every time. I don't know. I'm a big fan of China. So to my Chinese spy who's probably watching me through the phone, you know, if you can hook me up. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.